Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Amplify, where we like to spotlight movers and shakers in our industry and just people that I like and that are fancy. My guest today, Juan Farias with Homespire. Welcome, Juan. Thank you. Of course, of course. And Juan and I have known each other for a couple of years now. And Juan and I got together a few weeks ago because we both live locally here in Orlando. And we got together for some cafe like a couple of weeks ago. And it really was to talk about partnering together at NAMMBA because Juan and Homespire and we had partnered together in the past. So we was circling back and just connecting. But of course, the conversation and the topic like totally turned. It did, right? And I had to have Juan as a guest because this is the type of backstory that we need to hear in our current environment, especially for us loan originators, or I'm not a loan originator anymore, but for those originating loans or in sales and just grinding, on the day to day, you got to hear Juan's story because it is powerful. So, Juan, let's go back to the day we were having café con leche, right? And you told me that it got bad. It got bad. Yeah. So I'll let you take it over. Go ahead.
So I told this. I've told a few select people the story, but I've never really shared it in the public like that. But what
Okay.
you were mentioning is right now there might be other LOs or other folks in the same industry who are also struggling.
Mm-hmm.
So it can kind of resonate with them in ways that we can, there's ways to be able to surpass all the situations and things like that. So I've been in lending since 2016. I started as an LOA for a team. That team grew significantly, and I was actually blessed to be able to learn with underwriters and train with them. So I
Mm-hmm.
learned a lot. I was actually
Yeah.
pretty much a very valuable asset at that point. From there, I switched companies in 2018. Kind of everyone left, and in that company, I became a processor. So I was well rounded in the operations field. I've had my
Okay.
NMLS license since the beginning, so that was one of the requirements. And in 2020, for whatever reasons, right before COVID, I was actually laid off. So at that moment, I was like, "Oh my God, what am I gonna do now?" And
Yeah.
yeah, it was a little bit of a struggle at that point. So I interviewed with a bunch of different companies. Everyone was like, "Yeah, we want to hire you, but as an assistant. We don't want you to be an LO." And
Mm.
it was a
Okay.
very, it was a moment where it was very turning because either I could pursue being an LO and it could be great or it could be worse, or I can go back to being an assistant and having a stable, pretty much kind of, I'm not going to say job security because you can get laid off at any point, but it would give me
Yes.
a little bit more of security. And I went for it. So one of our previous managers he was a great mentor to me. He took me under his wing. March I started, had no loans. April I closed one loan. May I did like two. And every
Okay.
month they would send out like a monthly update of all the LOs and where you were. And I was barely ranking at the bottom. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, there has to be a better way. And little by
Okay.
little, like when I tell you I was working nonstop Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, every day trying to figure something out because at that point I was the one primarily with the income to sustain our house, our vehicles, and it got tough. So I learned a lot of things from the prior managers that I had and loan officers that I worked for. I saw the good and the bad, and I was
Okay.
able to kind of replicate some of the things that they used to do. One of the biggest keys in this business, or from whatever, if this conversation you want to take away, communication. That is the biggest piece of it because sometimes people call the LO and they don't pick up 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and they're like, oh, what happened? So I took
Yeah.
an initiative of changing the dynamic of how we do things. And that led
I
to
like
me
that
in,
communication.
yeah. So one realtor led to another one. What I did was the first one called the listing agent because no one ever calls them. So
Okay.
called them, followed up with them, told them the expectations, and they're like, wow, I'm going to refer you to someone else. And one led to two, two to four, four to eight, eight to 16, and it just multiplied. So in 6 months, I started in March. In
Okay.
6 months, I was already number one in the branch. So from the bottom of the leaderboard to the top, which
I
was
love
it was a
it.
process. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then
And when we were talking, you also mentioned, I'm going to go back a little bit. You did mention it got a little rough, right? You are the sole provider to your family and you're the breadwinner.
primarily because my wife always I can't downplay her and say she didn't help because she was, but
Oh,
the
amen to
what
that.
everything it adds up very quick.
Of
So
course. Of course. It's teamwork, right?
of course,
But you did mention that you did, it was so humbling. You did what you had to do to make it happen, to make your mortgage payments, right? Like,
of course. Oh,
so
okay. So when
yeah.
I had a little side hustle going on where I would buy things at wholesale, like the
Mhm.
liquidators, and I would sell it. So when that happened, I was like, and I also had another circumstance where we invested money in a company that turned out to be a scam.
That's right.
Yeah, it was they I lost everything. Like I had
Yeah.
$0. So I was like,
Mhm.
we still survived, but um I was buying things and selling them. So that weekend I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna miss my mortgage payment. And I went and I started I had I was pretty much anything that you could flip a house. Like I had refrigerators, I had
That's right.
dishwashers, I had a bunch of things, and everything got sold. And I made a good amount of money to pay my mortgage for the next 2 months in a
Okay.
weekend. So I was like, it was just like, all right,
Yeah.
I can't be I don't know how to say the word is like I can't feel sorry for myself. Take action. Pretty much was what clicked in my brain. So
And I you were telling me this because how can I say this one? Like when there's a will, there's a way, and if you really
of
want
course,
it, you'll make it happen. Right? Like
yeah,
you will find a way. That's why sometimes I call BS on people when they're like, "Oh, well, I'm struggling and it's not I don't know, I just can't seem to find new clients or well, are you trying different things? Are you networking? Are you making yourself visible? Are you like I don't know. It just I find it hard to believe at times because I'm such a grinder and you have the same work ethic. When you want something and you're passionate, you're going to get it done. Plus, we got to feed our familia. Like we don't have
of course, yeah,
not eating and not paying the mortgage is not an option, right, Juan? Like it just
yeah.
doesn't.
No, of course not.
Yeah. So, it took you 6 months to get from like only doing one loan, right? One loan. And then by the end of 6 months, what was your volume? Like what were your numbers?
Um, that first month, because I didn't believe it, because my
Mhm.
manager was like, "Hey, Juan, you're doing great." Like I was slowly climbing the leaderboard,
Yeah.
but that I remember because it was one of my biggest milestones. I did 2.7 million in that month. And then the
Yeah.
crazy thing was in 2021, I was in the President's Club. I never talk about numbers because I don't think that me personally, like, it's numbers. But
Okay.
that month, it was crazy. And then in 2021, I was part of the President's Club. I was in the top 25 of the company, which is awesome too, because at the end of the day, you see all the work that you've done, and it's like,
Yeah.
wow, all these families that we've impacted. And there's always people, they always call me. A lot of families call me, "Hey, Juan, how's it going?" And like, they follow me on Facebook, we'll text back and
Yeah.
forth, like, "Hey, I haven't talked to you in 2 years. What's up? How are you doing?"
Yeah.
So,
I love
and that's
that.
bad too, because you're supposed to follow with everyone every single time. But there's a lot of folks
It
that
happens. I know.
we try to make it happen every way, shape, or form. There's always if there's a will, there's a way, like you said. And
Yes.
sometimes other companies are very black and white. They don't think outside the box. Or like this guideline got updated 2 weeks ago, and you're still going based off of a guideline from 2 years ago. You can't do that. Like that's not mortgage lending. So
Yeah. And I absolutely loved hearing your backstory so much. I it needs to be shared because sometime when you're just at rock bottom where you can't make your mortgage payment, right? And you're doing something on the side to hopefully, God willing, make that mortgage payment, like you find that drive, like it just takes you to another level. And people need to hear the realness because it's not always sexy. Like a lot of people portray mortgage to be like really sexy and it's not. Like sometimes there's some really, really hard
it's
times
tough.
and we need to,
Yeah, it's tough.
you know, yeah, it's tough. And so you went within 6 months from like selling refrigerators on the side to make your mortgage payment to one of the top originators over at Homespire. So you know what? Felicidades.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And I cheer for you, bro, because that is like amazing. And I'm happy for
Yeah,
you. Like I'm really happy and cheering for you. Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, when you first met me, I was an assistant. Remember back in
Yeah.
2018? That was
Yeah.
with a big
And
group of
look,
people. So it's funny how a few years can change everything. And honestly, consistency and just being and there's
man,
like you said earlier, it was what are you doing different? So try to do something different versus everybody else. The most impactful thing you can do is the people that you have right now, nurture them and work in a way that, hey, let me fix this for you, or who do you know? Come with value. If everything is like, hey, let me get some business today, it doesn't work. Like, hey, I saw this article, or hey, this guideline change. Hey, I remember we talked to this client. Let me follow up with them. There's a lot of ways that you can do things to be a little bit different versus trying to follow everybody's standard norm of what they're doing. And that honestly, that's not gonna. It could lead to great results, but how do you differentiate yourself in a market where we all do the same thing?
yep. You come with value, like you said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And with that, you guys, thank you for another episode of Amplify. Gracias, Juan. Thank you so much,
Thank
sir,
you.
for your time and for sharing your backstory. Please connect with Juan. He is an amazing connection, and I hope that you'll be at the NAMMBA conference in August. We're working on something together, but definitely he is a great guy, and I'm very happy that you are
Thank you.
doing well. So, you guys, thank you for another episode of Amplify, and we will see you soon. Take care. Thank you, Juan.
Bye.
Gracias. Bye.